Hi, this is Chase Castle with Fairfield University's The Lounge, Fairfield University's NFL Talk radio show.
Hi, this is Coleman Macuch. Glad to be back for another week. We got our special guest today, Connor Gleason. Why don't you introduce yourself?
How are we doing, everyone? This is Connor Gleason. Well, I'm glad to be here, boys.
All right, so we'll start with the game of the week. Obviously, the Broncos against the Colts. A lot of stories coming out of this one. You have Peyton Manning's return to Indy and the ceremony they gave him. Andrew Luck shocking basically the world and taking that game from Peyton Manning. Reggie Wayne going down for the year. My biggest story in this one has got to be how the players surrounding Peyton Manning lost this game for him. This wasn't Peyton's fault. I think he did an excellent job in the situation that he was thrown in, but obviously the crucial fumble by Hillman. The Broncos defense just giving it up. A lot of big plays they gave up. What do you guys think?
I'd have to agree. The defense blew it. I don't know what to say. They blew it. Hillman blew it. Peyton Manning looked like he was going to have another one of his clutch games where he just comes in, wins it at the end, and then Hillman's fumble right at the goal line. They lost it for him.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I looked at some of the stats before, and you know the games that they've played in before, and obviously they've won all the games before. They had 100-plus rushing yards. They come into this game and they have 65 yards. You know, that's just they need. You know, the linemen need to step up there. You know, Moreno needed to have a better game. Really, I mean, the Colts don't have a killer defense for rushing yards. I'm looking at it right now. They're 27th in the league. You know, the Colts. I mean, the Broncos really they needed to step it up and they needed to run the ball and give Manning more time in the pocket. Really, because now the Colts realized, hey, we can stop the run. We're going to shut down Manning now the best we can.
Yeah, what did the Colts dress 10 defensive backs? They had some good preparation for that game, Peyton Manning, but just not his fault on that loss.
I have to agree. Like, granted, they did need a running game, but I feel like just as much the defense needed to step up. They had their lowest. The Colts scored their least amount of points this week with 33, which is insane. I feel like if an offense puts over 25 points on you, it's the defense's fault why the team lost, and they gave it away.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about Reggie Wayne's injury? Looking at the Colts, obviously a huge win here. They're probably projected now to do very well in the playoffs. Obviously, they're going to get in. How do you guys think Andrew Luck is going to handle this situation? Reggie Wayne's the veteran receiver there. He's had a good year. This is definitely a big blow for them.
Absolutely, and I saw a stat from SportsCenter today, and they said that Reggie Wayne actually has the third most targets in the past, I think it was 2 years? Yeah. Maybe 2 years, behind Calvin Johnson and who was the other guy?
I think it's Julio Jones.
And maybe Julio Jones. I mean, that's a ridiculous stat.
Yeah.
And for them to lose him for the rest of the season, I mean, that's going to be tough for Luck. You know, guy who's in his second year, he just beat Peyton Manning, so obviously he's a great quarterback. But the other receivers are going to need to step it up. I know T.Y. Hilton's one of them that I'm going to focus on for him.
T.Y. Hilton's huge. I think T.Y. Hilton and Wayne were splitting off in terms of time on the field, so I feel like they're just going to boost how much more snaps that T.Y. Hilton gets. But another receiver, Darius Hayward-Bay, the big free agent pickup by the Colts over the offseason, needs to prove something. All he has is speed, and that's all he's shown, so he needs to prove that he can go up and get the ball, not just try to beat them down the field.
My question is, when is Trent Richardson going to perform to what everyone expected? Obviously, when this trade happened, the Colts, this was the biggest gain for him. Awful move by the Cleveland Browns, but he just really hasn't shown up. Another disappointing performance this week. 37 yards, no touchdown. Basically left it all upon Luck. If the Colts are going to go anywhere, he needs to show up. And it's just disappointing so far. Maybe he'll get better. I don't know, though.
Absolutely. And I know Chase is going to bring this up because I've talked to him about it. But Trent Richardson is kind of, overvalued right now.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, he hasn't really put up the numbers that anyone's really expected him to. He's kind of in the middle of the pack. I don't know if the Colts need to use him differently or give him different looks, but he's definitely not doing. I mean, they made that trade for a reason, and they made that trade so they can run the ball and they can create a balanced offense where Luck can just absolutely light it up then. And, Trent Richardson really is not doing that for him.
So you're saying the Browns are the geniuses here, giving him up before?
I mean, how many games have they won since they traded him?
3-1 since.
Exactly.
I have to agree with what Connor said. He's been overvalued. He didn't do a whole lot last year. I don't know why a whole lot of people thought that he was going to have a good year, even though obviously he was traded from the Browns to the Colts. But he hasn't proven anything in the NFL. He's a top 4th overall pick, I believe, and he hasn't done anything to that shows 4th overall pick potential or show any flashes. It's not like a consistency problem where he'll have a game that he does great and then like for another game or two he'll run like for like maybe 30, 40 yards and then have like a 100-yard game. No, he's been consistent, but consistently mediocre.
The last thing I want to say about this game is just the performance of Eric Decker. I mean, he's their 3rd wide receiver, 150 yards, a touchdown. Could have had a second touchdown, but a questionable call. The refs took it back. He was diving for the pylon and hit it, but dropped the ball going out of bounds. I thought it was a touchdown, but called back. So what a performance he had. And every week it's a different receiver stepping up for the Broncos. Peyton has such a good group with them. Even Welker, second guy, 96 yards. They're definitely the best thing for Peyton Manning right now, and if they want to go far, they have a very good chance with that group.
Well, I mean, that's what everyone's been saying all year. I mean, obviously Peyton Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're not going to see much better than him. But the cast that they're surrounding him with right now is, I mean, the receivers they got, Julius Thomas, the tight end. It's incredible. And then you have Moreno coming out of the backfield, who is a great receiving back to start with. He can throw it anywhere on the field and someone's going to catch it. He has the confidence that, someone's going to catch it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a big deal here because you look at the group Peyton Manning has, and the question becomes now, if he can't win a championship, a Super Bowl, I know we're looking ahead, and we're definitely going to have this debate later on, but what happens to his legacy? I mean, I don't think he's been with a better surrounding group than he has been this year. And this is the year to get it done. I think it's one of his last chances. I'm sure he'll be great next year, probably of the same guys. But I'm looking – people talk about Tom Brady's legacy, how he lost 2 in a row, can't win one. Last one he won was 10 years ago. The Broncos need to get this done if Peyton Manning wants to go out as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That's my take.
I'll have to agree with Coleman with describing the cast and how good it is around him, but he also needs to prove that he can step it up in the playoffs, which he hasn't done in his career. I know he's won a Super Bowl and gone to another, but he's never in every time he gets to the playoffs, his play just goes down. We'll see what happens when this this round of playoffs comes around, because with that cast, I don't know how this team won't do good. Well, let's move on to the next game. This Bengals versus Lions game, huge for the who's going to be on top of the AFC North and NFC North. Bengals pull out a win here with a last-second drive to beat the Lions. It was a crazy game. Both quarterbacks throwing over 350 yards. 2 big receivers, Calvin Johnson and A.J. Green, could be number 1 and number 2 for the best receivers in the league, both with 155 yards. This was a huge game.
Yeah, that was my take on it. The big story was 2 of the top receivers in the league coming out and shining. There's have been a lot of disappointments this year. I mean, Adrian Peterson not doing as well as everyone thought. Arian Foster, Julio Jones, but I'm glad to see that A.J. Green and Calvin Johnson had the game that they had. I mean, Calvin Johnson, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. If the Lions are going to go anywhere this year, got to have Calvin Johnson. This is coming off an injury, so great performance by him. Bengals played a great game, great overtime win, and are now sitting pretty good at 5-2.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about this. I'm going to kind of go into the Bengals season right now. I was kind of in the mindset that the Bengals are kind of in the middle of the pack, but then after I've talked to you guys and I thought about it, they're not. They're really creating a name for themselves right now. They're 5-2. They beat the Patriots. First of all, I mean, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm going to say that right now. And they played really well. Their defense is really carrying them to where they want to be.
I have to agree. They beat the Patriots. Not only that, they beat the Packers as well, another very good team. They just beat the Lions, whose offense has been doing ridiculous, especially with Reggie Bush. I think this team could sneak into the top 5 by the end of the season if they keep this up. I'm not putting them there yet, but if they keep this up and keep beating these teams like they have, I think I could see them in the top 5 by the end of the season.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton's really starting to get hot when it matters. Through the first 5 games, had a total touchdown of 6, and over the last 2, 6 touchdowns again, so 3 each for the last 2 games. Getting better. He's had 2 games with no touchdowns, so he's heating up where it is. We'll move on to the game that I think all of you are waiting to hear about, the Jets and Pats. Tons of stories with this one. I mean, what happened? Why did that game even go into overtime? You can say it was the referee, but honestly, that game shouldn't have been there. Brady doesn't throw any touchdowns for the second half or overtime. They start with the ball, can't even get in field goal range. This was a pretty sad game, I thought.
Yeah, watching this game, it was tough. It was tough to watch. I mean, Brady didn't throw any touchdowns in the game at all. This is now the second time in 3 weeks that he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. And, as a Patriots fan, watching that, it's tough. It's tough to see that because we're kind of realizing, wait, what's going on here? He had a streak of, I don't know, 52 games that he's thrown a touchdown pass, and now twice in the last 3 weeks he hasn't done that. I personally want to blame it on the play calling, but I mean, obviously Brady's his play isn't as great as it could be.
I think a lot of this is on Brady. I mean, why is he throwing to Gronk so many times? The story was when Welker left is that he's not going to do that. He's going to spread the ball, and that's how they were able to win so many games with Amendola and Gronk out. But when Gronk comes back, he catches 14 passes, targeted 17 times. I know he's the best guy on that team receiving, but that's not going to cut it. The Jets were triple covering him at some point.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. There was a couple of passes where it wasn't even close, where there was a guy absolutely blanketing him and he had no chance to catch it.
Well, I feel bad for Brady. He doesn't have anyone to throw to other than Gronk. You look at Tompkins, Edelman, anyone he throws to, one, they're not professional receivers. I don't think they'd be on any other team if they were cut from the Patriots. Maybe as like a third or fourth string receiver. And Gronk he's the only option. I don't feel like Brady has any trust in the other receivers. He blew up against them when they played the Jets for the first time earlier in the season. And I just don't think he trusts anyone, so he's going to go to Gronk. He's going to only throw to him because he knows he will catch the ball if he puts it in the right place, whereas if he threw to Tompkins, he's just going to end up dropping it.
I want to say a couple of amazing stats here that I thought. I mean, Brady, 22 of 46, that really is not going to cut it as they try to continue in the season. 8% conversion on third down, that's just unacceptable. You have to get the job done.
And I want to touch on that third down stat. Going actually back to the play calling that I was talking about earlier, the Patriots, the amount of times that they've run on 2nd and 10 and have gotten less than 3 or 4 yards. I mean, I wish I had found a stat for that. It's ridiculous. I was sitting there as a fan and I'm like, we're sitting here 2nd and 10 and now it's 3rd and 7 the majority of the time, and now you're putting more pressure on Brady than he needs. Without the cast around him, he only has Gronk that he can trust, and you're expecting him to convert 5 to 10 3rd and 7s. And it's mind-blowing that they're going to keep running it again and again on 2nd and 10. They need to go for the 1st and 10, run the ball, get chunks of yards, because with the hurry-up offense that they like to run, it's all about first down, and it's about just keeping the ball moving, and they're just not doing that, and they can't run the hurry-up anymore.
I'll agree with you. I think the play calling wasn't going on the Pat side, but you also got to look at the other end of the field with Rob Ryan. He knew he needed to run the ball. He ran Chris Ivory 34 times for 104 yards. While it might have only been 3.1 yards per carry, he was still running the ball, keeping his offense on the field, allowing his defense to rest so when it got on, it could help stop Gronk and Brady. Whereas the Patriots' defense just had to be worn out, especially going into overtime, where they had to have been gassed from playing 46 minutes of the game. There's no excuse for the Patriots losing this game. I know obviously people are mad saying that call in overtime on the field goal was a bit bogus. But at the same time, the Pats shouldn't have been in this place. They're an elite team, and if they want to have that, they shouldn't be going into overtime with a team like the Jets, even though they're on the uprise.
I mean, Jets time of possession 46 minutes, Patriots 23. That's double the time, the amount that the Jets had over the Patriots. Third quarter, 3 out of 4 consecutive drives for the Patriots are for negative yards. I just don't even know how that can happen. You got Gronk back. That was the big deal. Brady's still, if you want to argue that Brady's the best quarterback in the league, he has to pick up positive yards in a third quarter when the Jets are storming back.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead, Connor.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing. The Patriots come in. They play in a division team. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game. But if they're looking to be a contender and they're looking to be an elite team, like you said, Chase, they can't. They had 19 less plays than the Jets. They were off the field for half the time than the Jets' offense. That can't happen. They can't be 1 for 12 on third down efficiency. For them to play well and for them to play good football, if they're doing this, it just can't happen.
This was a pretty bad game for the Patriots defense. I mean, Gerard Mayo was out, Vince Wilfork's out, Akeem Talib is out, and they just never got a break. The offense couldn't get the job done. Obviously the defense would have been on the field for twice as more as the Jets defense. And I mean, Chris Ivory, the backup running back for the Jets with over 100 yards, that's unacceptable. A lot of bad things happening in this game.
Right, and this is actually kind of a big signing the Patriots just had. They signed Andre Carter on the line, and obviously this kind of shows that they're trying to make something happen on the defense. With Akeem Talib out, he had a huge game against Jimmy Graham against the Saints, and he's just a shutdown cornerback right now. No receiver's going to catch the ball when he's covering him. And they're trying to recover from that. Mayo's out for the year with a torn pectoral muscle. They're trying to recover, and now that they got Andre Carter, they're kind of hoping that he can come in, pick up the slack that Mayo kind of dropped with the injury, Talib dropped with the injury, Wilfork dropped with the injury. So they're I don't know if they're going to put a lot of pressure on Carter, but there is a lot of pressure on him to pick up that slack.
There has to be a lot of pressure on Carter. They want him to perform like he did 2 years ago in the 2011 season, where he had 10 sacks. He had a great season but they signed him for just 1 year. So he went to the Raiders last year. He didn't play very well, and we'll see. He's old. He's 35 years old. I don't think he has a lot left in his tank. So we'll see if he can perform like he did 2 years ago, or even half of that level. That would be a huge improvement for the Pats.
Yeah, so overall, no credit taken away from the Jets. Good job by Geno Smith hanging around, coming back. I mean, down 21-10 at halftime. I think everyone thought that game was over. And so we'll give the credit to them. They'll definitely need this one as they're going to be fighting for that playoff spot. Pats, I think, are still going to take this division, but that wild card spot, watch out for the Jets. They're coming. So we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
A bright future starts with a healthy lifestyle.
Pinocchio, I'm a real boy.
Good nutrition and physical activity are fuel for your child's mind and body.
Now you're talking.
And the food pyramid will help you find the right balance of everything you and your child need. Grains, vegetables, fruits, oils, milk, and meats and beans.
Nothing can stop me now.
Just remember, smart choices from every food group, along with the right amount of physical activity, can put everyone on the path to better health.
Look, the wishing star.
You don't have to make a wish for a healthier you to come true. Just eat right.
Here's an apple.
Be active.
Come on, I'll race you home.
And make it balance.
Attaboy, Pinocchio.
A healthy lifestyle can lead to great things for you and your child. Visit mypyramid.gov to learn more. That's mypyramid.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
There once was a boy wizard whose name was Larry Smarter.
Larry, why weren't you in Professor Dinky Doodle's mythical creature classification class?
Well, I'm taking Algebra 2 in a foreign language.
Oh, so you can talk to unicorns?
Not exactly, unless they're French.
Larry wanted to go to college, so he visited knowhowtogo.org to find the classes he really needed. Getting into college doesn't happen magically. Learn more at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Fairfield University's The Lounge, NFL weekly talk show. So we'll head to the only undefeated team in the NFL. Who knew? The Kansas City Chiefs pulling out the nail-biting win against the Houston Texans. 2-14 last year. What a great job Andy Reid has done. But for me, this game really opened up some questions about the Chiefs.
It did open up a lot of questions, especially on the offensive side. Can Alex Smith get this done? They only scored 17 points against the Houston Texans. While the Texans do have a good defense with J.J. Watt, Jonathan Joseph, they have a good defense. If you want to continue this undefeated streak, you need to put up more than 17 points a week. But what I think did show this week was their defense with Tom Bahali's tackle at the end of the game, strip sack, fumble. I'm blown away by how good this defense is. It is ridiculous.
Absolutely, and that's how the Chiefs are going to go far right now. If they're going to look to stay undefeated and look to make a run in the playoffs, defense wins championships, and the way they're playing defense right now, it's incredible. They're forcing turnovers. They're doing whatever they can to win games. And like you said before, the offense is really the question. Can the offense pick up the slack and carry this team? Because Alex Smith is a great quarterback. I think he had a tough season last year in San Fran, and they kind of dumped him on the sidewalk. But they have Jamal Charles and they have Alex Smith, and they need to put up more than 17 points a game.
They do. Their running game's good with Jamal Charles, but you can't rely on that. Dwayne Bowe needs to step it up. He's for a primary receiver, he has almost nothing.
Well, this Chiefs defense is the top number one defense in the league, so this is the only way that they're going to keep this undefeated streak and go far in the playoffs. Alex Smith, it's been overshadowed because of how good the Chiefs have been playing, but he's really had not that great of a year. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 3 games, and 2 weeks before that, he didn't throw a touchdown either. So he's got to step it up. They're playing a Texans team with a third-string quarterback in, and just to be clear, they weren't starting over Schaub. Schaub was injured, so it's not official yet that Schaub has lost his job. But this Chiefs team should not have come down to 1 point against the Texans. When you think of the games they lost to, 2 weeks ago, San Francisco killed the Texans. That's what I thought would happen here. Jamal Charles, definitely a good game. You guys brought that up. But Alex Smith, I don't know what's going to happen with this team if he doesn't get better.
I disagree with you on that one. Alex Smith, he's not going to put up the stats that a Brady's going to put up or a Manning's going to put up.
No touchdowns in the last 3 games. How is that going to lead you in the playoffs at all?
They need a better rushing attack, quite frankly. They need Jamal Charles to pick it up. He's having a decent season, but Alex Smith doesn't really throw touchdowns. Alex Smith is a smart quarterback that makes plays. He's like a Russell Wilson of last year. He doesn't run as much, obviously. He's not quite really Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson is a smart quarterback. He'll win you games. Alex Smith will win you games. He'll put you in the opportunity to win games. And really, that's when the rest of the team needs to kind of pick it up. Alex Smith will bring you there, but the rest of the team around him needs to get you those touchdowns and that win.
The best team that Kansas City has beaten this year is the 4-3 Dallas Cowboys. They need to beat someone good. All of their wins have basically been a joke. They beat the Giants, they beat the Jaguars, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Titans. So I'm waiting for them for their schedule to get tougher, and I don't see this team finishing above the Broncos, and I don't see them winning really more than 10 games here. I think that they're in trouble now. I think they'll probably just go 500 the rest of the season. This game really had my doubts against them.
Well, the Chiefs aren't going to be playing any other really good teams. They have 3 games left on their schedule that I see as elite teams that they play, which are Denver twice and Colts. And believe me, those are great teams. But other than that, they play Cleveland, Buffalo, San Diego twice. Yes, San Diego's good. They've had their moments. Washington and Oakland. None of those teams are elite. San Diego's probably the best of them, and that's nothing special. So I still see this team putting up a lot of points, but when it comes to the playoffs, we'll see. Their defense is doing everything to make them win right now. I really think it's more Alex Smith, to disagree with you, Connor. I think he's being like a a signal caller. He's not doing anything remarkable. This defense is winning them games. Yes, he puts them in opportunities, but but the quarterback that leads a team to the playoffs needs to not only be putting them in the opportunity, but needs to be winning these games for the team, not relying on another part of the team to do it. And I think Jamal Charles, I can't say he's been having a bad season. He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry, 561 yards. I have no problems with that. And not only that, he's the second leading receiver on the team with 337 yards. Like, I feel like he's doing well.
I mean, and I was going to hint on that. Alex Smith doesn't throw the ball more than 10 yards. He doesn't do that. He doesn't throw the long balls, and that's why Bo's having a tough season. You know, Bo is the guy that's going to go out there and get those big catches. You know, Smith is throwing it to McCluster a lot, and he's throwing it to Charles a lot. And they don't go very far on the field. So he's getting small chunks of yards. But, it's just, Smith, he's going to want to focus. I mean, if he's going to want to put up these big touchdowns and these big stats, he's going to want to look at Bo to be, his main receiver there.
I'd definitely agree with that.
So, bottom line here for me, kind of a bittersweet win for the Chiefs. Glad they got the win, but this really should have been a better game. Should have been a more decisive win, and I don't really know where they're going to go, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the season 500 and end up going like an 11-5, definitely.
I don't see that. I feel like they're going to put up a lot of wins. When it comes to the playoffs, maybe they'll fall, but as I said, they only play 3 elite teams. I don't see how they could go 500 with the rest of their schedule. It's just too easy.
Yeah, I mean, if they go 500 the rest of the year, then that's an absolute disappointment. Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right, so we will head to a different game now. We'll give Chase his glory here. We'll go with the Redskins-Bears. We'll let him start this off. He's the Redskins fan.
Oh, God, I could go off on this for hours. This game reminded me so much of the last 7 games of last season, where the Redskins were their offense was playing out of their mind, and that's what happened this game. Morris had 19 carries for 95 yards. Halou had 11 carries for 41, but had 3 touchdowns. Griffin ran for 84 yards. This game, just everything on offense worked great for the Redskins. I was just shocked. That touchdown to Aldrick Robinson just reminded me so much of last year when RG3 hit Santana Moss and the Eagles. When they were playing against the Eagles, just that long bomb to him. If this offense keeps playing like this, the Skins are going to be a hard team to beat. I'm not saying they're going to get to the playoffs. They put themselves in a big hole, but the games are going to be exciting to watch, at least on the offensive side.
Yeah, on the offensive side. That's when Josh McCown goes 14 for 20 for 204 yards and a touchdown, like, where is the defense on the field on this, or like, what's going on? Like, the Bears put up a lot of points against them, and if the Redskins want to go far, yeah, they have a great offense. That's you can't argue that. But they need to play a little bit of defense if they're going to want to win games.
I was glad to see that for the second week in a row, Robert Griffin looked pretty much like himself from last year. Another big game, 84 yards rushing, 298 yards with 2 touchdowns. He had a big game. But another big story out of this one is the loss of Jay Cutler. Big story for the Bears. I personally think that this ended their season. I know the replacement did pretty well, but, I mean, to lose Jay Cutler for 4 weeks, that's what they're predicting right now, is a big loss. They were sitting pretty good at 4-2, now dropping to 4-3. The Packers still continue to be rolling over teams. So I don't see either of these two teams benefiting from this game at all and moving on in the season to go anywhere good.
Yeah, because like you said, Jay Cutler's out. The offense is going to take a huge hit from that. Forte's having a pretty good season, but obviously he's not going to be able to carry their offense.
Well, he did get 3 touchdowns. So
he did get 3 touchdowns. That's true, but it's hard for a running back to carry an offense. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's trying his best. He's trying his best to carry this team, but we'll see how that turns out.
He was carrying the team 2 years ago, I remember. And Forte, if there is a running back that can do it, I think he can. But I don't see this Bears team moving on. they're just playing in too tough of a division, playing against the Lions and the Packers as well. And they're also in the NFC. I don't see them getting a wild card. I don't see this team doing well. I like Mark Trestman, and maybe next year they'll have something. It's Jay Cutler's contract year, so hopefully when he gets back from his injury, he'll play well. But I think that injury just made this season a loss.
So before we switch, Chase, you want to say anything more about your Redskins? This might be one of the only times you get to talk about them getting a win, so we'll give you some extra time if you want it.
Maybe just to touch on the defense. Their defense is doing poorly. I think London Fletcher's clearly too old to be playing this sport now. I love him. He's been a great player for the Redskins. How can you not? He's been one of the most underrated players in the history of the NFL. But I feel like this defense does have problems. While D'Angelo Hall might have had 2 good games in a row, that doesn't mean he's a good player. They need new corners, a new secondary, and their D-line, it might have played okay this game, but we'll see where it goes. They need some major changes in the secondary and maybe a D lineman as well. So let's move on to the next game. We'll go over the big rivalry, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh had a crazy upset.
Yeah, I mean, not too many great stats out of this one. No huge plays, but for me, I was just glad to see that the Steelers-Ravens rivalry is still there. I mean, no Ray Lewis, no Hines Ward, no Ed Reed, some of the best players that really made this rivalry is still on this team, and a close game, shootout to the end. Troy Polamalu with some huge hits on guys. This game made me happy.
I mean, yeah, it does. It makes you happy as a football fan. But it's tough to say that this. I mean, obviously the rivalry is still there between the teams. But the Ravens are 3-4 after a Super Bowl. The Steelers are 2-4.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even when both teams are under 500, it's not like they're going for the number one, the playoff spot, which they had been so many times. I mean, how many times have we seen a 10-5 Ravens come against a 10-5 Steelers? I'm making these up, but the winner is going to take the AFC North. Even when that's not there, this is still a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard the Ravens were playing the Steelers, personally, I was like, okay, this is going to be a cool game. Not. I was not looking forward to this game. There was nothing I really wanted to watch. Both teams aren't playing that great. Joe Flacco's having a, rough season.
Ray Rice, I mean, we talked about him last week, 45 yards and a touchdown. He's not,
and he's injured. He's trying to come off of that. The Steelers, I mean, there's not much to be said for them. They've won 2 in a row, I think, now. So they're starting to turn around a little bit, but, they're not playing great football.
I feel like Ravens are trying to rebuild right now. They knew after they won the Super Bowl they needed to cut ties with some of these older guys like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and I think this is a consequence. I feel like Ozzie Newsome, the general manager of the Ravens, knew that this might happen. I don't think he expected a 3-4 start, but they've been inconsistent. They're going to lose to teams like the Steelers, but they're also going to end up playing good games against other good teams. Like they almost beat the Packers, but the offense just couldn't get anything done in this game. They didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter, having only 2 field goals in the first and second. This team just needs to get something going on offense. I don't know what.
You guys have any final thoughts on this game? I mean, not much there. We said both teams under 500. Close game, but nothing like the games we've seen. But the rivalry is still there. I think that's the biggest point to take away from this game. So sticking in the AFC, we'll talk about this game, the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Pretty big game around here because we got a lot of Patriots fans and a lot of Jets fans. What happened to Miami? Start out 3-0, and now they're 0-3. The Bills seem to be getting some key wins. Can either team build from this? My opinion is no. I mean, it was a close game. I think both teams are going to give the Patriots and the Jets, who I think are the 2 leading teams coming out of the AFC East, a hard time. But I don't see either one somehow making the playoffs or doing anything special.
I like the Bills. I think they're a dark horse team for the playoffs. Yes, they're 3-4. They're playing in a division that's pretty much already won by the Patriots, even though we've already gone over their inconsistencies. But you look at this team; they've kept up in every single game they've played against. Week 1, they barely lost to the New England Patriots, 23-21. They almost beat the Jets. They almost beat the Bengals. I know there's a lot of almost there. But they're very underrated. They're keeping up with teams. I don't even know how. I know they've been getting a ridiculous amount of interceptions, but you got to watch out for the Bills. They're a good team, and when you play them, you can't go into it thinking that it's already a win. And I've been saying this for the past couple of years. The Bills are a scrappy team. I never look forward to when the Patriots play the Bills because the Bills, they find a way to stay with you. As bad as you're playing or as good as you're playing, the Bills are gonna stay with you. They're a scrappy team, like I said, and they somehow stick with every team they play. It doesn't make sense sometimes, when their players are playing awful, but they always are in the game.
This is going to be tough now for any team that has a road game against the Bills. Buffalo is basically in Canada. It's going to start getting cold. There'll probably be a few snow games out of there. So look for some key matchups that have to be played in Buffalo that could really shake things up.
I agree. It's just they're a good team. You can't take it lightly. You can't. They're gonna put up some scares and they're gonna have an upset or two this year. I do see they're playing the Chiefs. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. And they also play the Patriots last game of the year, and they don't have a very hard schedule from that. I could see them making a run, and that last game could come down to mean something against the Pats Week 17.
They could, and don't overlook the game they play next week against the Saints. Or this week, actually.
I just want to bring up, I got tickets to that Week 17 game Chase just mentioned. So excited for that. So we're running out of time here with our first segment on recapping the games, but still two more games we want to hit real quick. My Eagles playing the Cowboys. Disappointing for me, I know. That, like we said last week, that's a first-place game, and the Eagles just didn't show up. I know they had to use their backup and then the third-string QB. Matt Barkley just looked awful. 3 interceptions in one quarter. Glad Michael Vick's going to be starting for the Eagles, but this was definitely a hit, and I think the Cowboys now definitely proved they're the favorite there. You guys have any real quick thoughts on that one?
I think it was a big game just for the division. Cowboys have put up 2 big division wins against the Redskins last week and Eagles this week, and it's making them look like they're definitely, it's clear that they're number one now, but it's definitely put them as the front runners in this still somewhat muddy division. Yeah, definitely. The Dallas is really starting to come around and play some good football now. Since the Denver game, they've played some pretty good football, and they're turning it around, and they're kind of making themselves, like you said, kind of looking like they're going to be in the top of the division. Like, they played some good football, but they need a big win or something that shows. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying they're an elite team right now, but when I see Dallas, I like how they look right now. So do I. Definitely. And the last game, the Monday Night Football game, got a lot of Giants fans here. We should give an applause, I think. Eli Manning getting his first win. Good and no interceptions. Combining the two words, no interceptions. Another big running back. And Josh Freeman, 53 passes is just unacceptable for a quarterback who's new to the team. And you have a Hall of Fame MVP running back, and he only gets the ball about 11 times. Yeah, he had 13 rushes. Freeman's throwing the ball 40 more times than, Peterson's rushing it. That's mind-blowing. You got to look at the coaching staff there, or unless somehow Freeman's calling audibles to go out of a rush. But you got to look at the coaching staff, and, they're going to be sitting there like, why did we not give Peterson the ball more? I don't even think Freeman knows the audibles yet. He hasn't been there long enough. This is true. I feel like it's. I don't know how you can do this. I feel bad for Freeman. He's still a young quarterback who still has potential, and having just been cut by the team he was drafted by, and he's been having bad relationships with Greg Schiano of Tampa. He gets cut. He gets picked up by the Vikings. He's still trying to learn the system. He's still not probably mentally 100% there yet, not just knowing the plays, but ready for football. I don't even know why they'd start him. They should have started Castle and given them some time to prepare. Yeah, I think this is a nightmare situation for Freeman right now. He comes into the season with the Bucs. It's a contract year. He hasn't played awful the last couple of years. He's coming in this year looking for a big year and a lot of stats, and he plays terrible and gets cut. And now he goes to the Vikings, and his first game had 33 incompletions. That's tough for him. Yeah, Vikings playing the Packers this week.
Monday Night Football, this just looks like a disaster. He is still the starter, I believe. He suffered a concussion, and they're not sure how he's doing yet, but all reports have said that if he is healthy, then he will be the starter, and if not, they'll go back to Christian Ponder, who was the quarterback that brought them to the playoffs last year. Just want to make a correction. That game is actually the Sunday Night Football game, so even bigger than Monday Night Football, I believe, and we'll see who gets the start and who gets the job done. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes again after this commercial break. We will preview next week's games, and we're going to have a special segment this week where we look at the power rankings that just came out yesterday, and we will examine the NFL's top 5 and give our own and debate it. So we'll be right back.
I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all 3 Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Getting into college doesn't happen magically. You have to take the right classes now, like Algebra 2, Biology, and a foreign language. Learn more at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
There once was a boy wizard whose name was Larry Smarter.
Larry, why weren't you in Professor Dinky Doodle's mythical creature classification class?
Well, I'm taking Algebra 2 in a foreign language.
Oh, so you can talk to unicorns?
Not exactly, unless they're French.
Larry wanted to go to college, so he visited knowhowtogo.org to find the classes he really needed. Getting into college doesn't happen magically. Learn more at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Fairfield University's The Lounge. So now we're into the second half of the show where we are previewing next week's games. And unfortunately, there are not that many great ones. A lot of good teams playing bad teams. But, I mean, one of the best right now is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jets coming off that win against the Patriots. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, yeah, the Jets are coming in with a lot of confidence, beating the Patriots. And I think when you give the Jets confidence and when you give Rex Ryan confidence, they become a very deadly team. You know, they can start to do a lot when you give them a lot of confidence.
I feel like this Jets team is looking a lot like they were maybe 3-4 years ago when they made those 2 AFC championship runs with Mark Sanchez, the new rookie quarterback who's doing a lot of things but not really putting up any numbers, not looking that good, but the team's just leading them there. I feel like the same's with Geno. I think Geno needs to have a big game, show that he's a good quarterback, that the team's just not just bringing him there, that he's bringing the team, because his numbers haven't been good in any game he's played in. Like, they haven't been bad, but there's been no games where he's put up 300 yards or looked like a great quarterback, and I think he needs to do this against Cincy to prove something.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Connor said about the confidence, because there wasn't much out of the Patriots game that made me say, like, oh, Geno Smith's finally there. Like, that the Jets' defense is rocking now. Like, none of that, I didn't think. I think the biggest point you can take out of last week's game against the Patriots coming into the Bengals game is the confidence. I mean, the Bengals just had a shootout with the Pats 2 weeks ago, and now you got the Jets who beat the Pats in overtime. That's got to be something for them. So this one could be a lot more interesting than it may seem on paper or just how history has gone with the Jets. But this could be a really good one.
Yeah, but I'm looking for the first half of this game to be kind of weak. I'm looking at a defensive battle right now. I could see a 0-0 game going into halftime, really. The Jets obviously a great defense. The Bengals are playing, playing great defense. That it's going to be tough, for any offense in this game to score any points.
I think Andy Dalton's getting a little too hot for it to go 0-0, especially with A.J. Green against the Jets secondary. But I'm definitely looking for it to be a close one.
I think it's going to be a close one, but you can't forget that A.J. Green and the Cincinnati offense is a good offense. Dalton played out of his mind against the Lions last week, so who's to say that he won't do it this week? I know they still have Antonio Cromartie, the Jets. The Jets have Antonio Cromartie. But I feel like A.J. Green could easily prove something this game and have a breakout game against a good corner.
Yeah, no, definitely. If A.J. Green and Dalton find a way to click and Dalton can find a way to beat the secondary, what I just said, a defensive battle, it could really turn into a blowout game by the Bengals. I don't see the Jets putting up a lot of points against the Bengals defense. I think it's whether Dalton can put up a lot of points against the Jets defense is where it's going to come from.
I think an interesting point to look at here is that if the Bengals win, which I'm going to assume they will, they're 5-2. That's the same record as the Patriots, the 49ers, and the Colts. And that's even ahead of the Packers, who are 4-2. So if you're looking at a team that goes 6-2, and you got a couple of 6-1 teams that could potentially lose, this Bengals team is now at the top of the NFL. And if you had asked me or asked anyone 2 or 3 weeks ago, how do you feel about the Bengals? I don't think anyone really says. I would assume people would say they're going to get into the playoffs just because of the AFC North. But any other division, I don't see them beating out the leader, but if they can take this one, they're at the top.
They definitely are at the top. They're underrated. Everybody thinks they just have a good team, nothing great, but they've proven, as we said earlier in the show, that they can beat elite teams, that they can compete at a high level, and that I feel like they have some playoff experience now. Once they get to the playoffs this year, I feel like they could show something, and a big win over the Jets right here would prove a lot for that, because that could be a future matchup.
So another big game, probably only the second second interesting game to watch, and probably these two are the only ones that are worth watching if you're not a fan of your team playing, is the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys, which isn't even that great of a game, but it's the second best. It's what we have to work with. They're both 4-3. One's going to come out 5-3. Cowboys starting to look hot. Lions just had a tough loss. This one's going to be close, and I don't even think I can pick a winner. If I did, it would just be guessing because I think both are pretty even.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy with Des Bryant saying that he's just as good as Calvin Johnson. And while Des Bryant is one of the top receivers in the league and is the third best other than A.J. Green and C.J. and Calvin Johnson, in my opinion, I don't think you can compare. They're both very good, but Johnson's just it's not even. He could be one of the best receivers in NFL history. Absolutely,
and if I'm Johnson here in this situation, if I were to say anything, obviously he hasn't come out with any comments, which is probably smart of him, because if you say something, that's usually a bad idea. But if he was to come out, you would say, you know what, prove it. We're playing each other next week. Put up more points than I will, and that's. Des Bryant thinks he can do it. I mean, obviously, Des Bryant isn't a great receiver, but he's nothing like Megatron. Absolutely nothing near him.
So Chase has this overwhelming desire to talk about the Redskins and Broncos. He claims there are a lot of – he's from the D.C. area. He claims that there are a lot of Washington, D.C. area people listening, so I really hope you are, because we don't want to bore our other listeners. So this one's for you guys. We'll give him this one. Broncos and Redskins, I'm projecting it to be like 50-10. What's your thought, Chase? Let's hear it.
Well, thank you for the introduction to that game. I'm humbled by it. But I think the game's going to be fun to watch because both offenses are going to score a lot. I don't think it's going to be 50-10.
And both defenses are terrible.
Oh, both defenses are just going to give everything up. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. Not because it's going to be close, because I feel like Broncos, especially after losing to the Colts, are going to come back angry and just put up 50, 55 points on the Redskins. But at the same time, I feel like the Skins are going to score like 30, 35, somewhere around there, just because their offense has been doing well and the Denver's hasn't.
Yeah, I can see that, but I just don't see this game being really that close.
No,
I mean, the Bears put up 41 points against the Redskins. What are the Broncos going to do?
I don't see it being close. I just see it as exciting with a lot of points scored.
That's true.
And we like to hit all of our major fans' teams, and obviously I'm an Eagles fan. We got a lot of Giants fans listening, so real quick on this one, Michael Vick's coming back. Should be a good win for the Eagles, I think. I'm glad because I can finally watch them because we get New York channels, so I can see that game. Don't think Eli's going to get his second win, and I predict he's going to throw some interceptions like always. Real quick, guys, anything?
I kind of want to see the Giants now play a little spoiler, you know. I mean, obviously, Giants fans are sitting here thinking they might go 10-6 now, but I don't see that happening. But I would like to see them play a little spoiler, you know, maybe beat the Cowboys once, you know, play the Eagles tight, maybe beat them, you know, beat some of the top tier teams because I mean they can, they've proven it in the past, but I mean obviously they've had a rough beginning to the season, so I mean I want to see them kind of maybe get a few more wins against good teams.
I could see a spoiler now that they have a win under their belt. That'll probably give them a little confidence, saying that we can beat a team, even though it's led by a guy even though they beat a team led by Josh Freeman, who was on the team for 12 days. But I feel like I think with the Eagles with Michael Vick back, I don't see them losing this game. With Vick back, if it was Matt Barkley, they'd probably throw more times to the Giants and just give roll the ball. But with those 3 interceptions from the last game, but I feel like Eagles have this in the bag.
And the last game, we'll send this one over to Connor. He's the Patriots fan. Patriots and Dolphins. Miami's 0-3 in their last 3 games. Patriots coming off a tough loss. I would assume you're going to say the Patriots are going to take this one. We'll let you finish out this segment.
I mean, I would hope so. You know, they come off a tough loss against the Jets. You know, I think the Patriots come into the practice this week and they say, "Hey guys, like what's going on here? We need to pull this together. You know, we're the Patriots. You know, you know, that's a tough name to follow up to, but you know, they also still have Tom Brady. They still have Belichick. They got Gronk back. You know, they need to be the elite team that they can be if they're looking to do something."
Yeah, I think Pats have this in the bag, especially with the Dolphins on a 3-game losing streak. The 3-0 start for the Dolphins was big, but they since have dropped it. If Dolphins want to get back on track, they need to win this game. If they lose this, I feel like they're done, and I'm pretty sure they are going to lose it.
All right, so we've decided that each week we're going to try and add a special segment to the conclusion of the show just to spice things up a little bit. And for the last 7 minutes, we're going to examine the NFL Power Rankings. So this week they have Chiefs number 1, Colts number 2, Broncos number 3, Seahawks number 4, and the Saints number 5. I don't think we have time to give our own power rankings, but I think it'll be fun to debate these. And my biggest problem, obviously, I said it before after their win against the Texans, is the Chiefs. Obviously, best defense in the league, number 1 in points, number 1 in sacks, but that game that they just played, I don't think that it is representative of the number 1 team in the NFL. I know they're the only undefeated team, but I don't think you can look just at records on this one. And I also have a problem with the Saints being number 5. I think they're number 2 to the Broncos, maybe number 1. I mean, if you go back to that Patriots game, if there's so many things that could have happened that would have the Saints sitting at 7-0, and they're clearly number 1. If Brady doesn't make an amazing throw to Tompkins, if Drew Brees can get a first down when they get the ball back 2 times at the end of the game, I mean, their defense had already stopped Brady twice on an interception and forcing them to punt. So, I mean, any of those, you're seeing the Saints at 7-0, and they're clearly the number 1. I mean, what do you guys think? You can debate what I think. You can debate a different scenario that you think is better. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't, like I said with you, like you said, I don't see the Chiefs as the top team in the NFL right now. Yeah, they're 7-0, but their schedule's been, you know, terrible, really. They haven't played really any good teams. And yeah, their defense is really good, but like we've talked about earlier, their offense might not quite be there. But the one thing I have a problem with, though, is how you say the Saints are number 2. Yes, I like how they have their coach back now and how they're playing now, but I don't see the Saints being the second best team in the NFL. I would say no. I would say the Seahawks are better than them. I would say the Broncos are better than them, and I would say the Colts are better than them at least.
I have to agree with you saying I don't see the Saints at number 2. I see them at number 4. I feel like they are better than the Seahawks, but the Chiefs, Colts, and Broncos are all better than them. I'd say Broncos are number 1, even though they just lost to the Colts. Peyton Manning went through an emotional time with that game in Indy for the first time since he left. And the Colts have just been a bit inconsistent. They have the greatest potential. When they're running on all cylinders, they are the best team in the NFL, but they aren't always running on all cylinders. Like, I feel like the Chiefs and Broncos can maintain a little better.
You know, the reason why I'm putting the Saints so high is because I feel that they're the most consistent team out there. I mean, if you look at their offense and defense, both of them are ranked in the top 10, and that is not the case for any of the other teams. The Chiefs have a great defense, but a slacking offense. The Broncos have a great offense, but a slacking defense. I don't trust Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense. I know they have Marshawn Lynch, and I know that their defense is one of the tops in the league. I have them on fantasy, but I don't think that their offense and Russell Wilson's throwing ability puts them above the Saints or anyone. And I also don't think the Colts have a good enough offense or defense to be above the Saints. I mean, Andrew Luck has only thrown over 300 yards once, and Drew Brees has done it every game except one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I disagree with you, though. Russell Wilson, he'll get you wins. Yeah, he's not going to put up the stats, like I said before, but I like him at quarterback. He will get you wins. And the way I kind of look at these power rankings is what team is going to win when they're under pressure. And the Seahawks, to me, are one of those top teams. They got Marshawn Lynch, who can really perform in the playoffs and is a really good runner and a power runner, and that's what you need in the playoffs, or any pressure situation, really. And then you got Russell Wilson, who is a smart quarterback, you know. He doesn't make any dumb decisions, and he doesn't really throw that many picks.
So where are you going to rank the Seahawks? You seem to be a pretty big Seahawks fan right now.
I have them 3, but I kind of wanted them to put that at 2.
Okay.
I got the Seahawks at 5. I think Saints are better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks need to have a big win under their belt, and other than the 49ers game, granted they did destroy the 49ers, but as I've been saying, I feel like both the 49ers and Seahawks were overrated this offseason, saying that they're both going to be like the powerhouses of the league, and they're both very good, but it's clear that they're not the number 1 and number 2. And that's why the 49ers aren't even in our top 5. They're definitely top 10. But
I think Niners are 6 right there behind the Seahawks.
But they're not top 5.
They're not top 5 though, no.
It's clear.
The last thing I want to say is I have a problem with some of these power rankings sometimes because I think they're too focused on who beats who. I mean, I know the Colts just beat the Broncos, but there is no way I put the Colts over the Broncos in the power rankings. Peyton Manning is just too good. The wide receiving core is too good there. The defense has the potential to be a top defense in the league. Von Miller's coming back, or he just came back. So I have a problem sometimes when a team will beat another team. I almost consider that Colts game an upset. I know it wasn't, and I know the Colts are a good team, but the Broncos should have won that game. And I have a problem when there is an upset, immediately putting that game over the other team, that better team that lost. I mean, if this isn't Peyton Manning's reunion and there's not a huge ceremony before the game where 80,000 people are cheering you for over a minute and you're crying out there, waving to the crowd, I mean, think about going into the game and think about what Andrew Luck had to do performing up to that level. This could have been that edge he needed to be that quarterback, and I think if this game is in Denver later on the year, he doesn't have that edge. He already beat Peyton. So I'm definitely not upset, but I wish that the Broncos were over the Colts.
Yeah, but I want to talk a little bit about the Colts defense here. Okay, they kind of they showed the NFL how to beat the Broncos. They showed that they dressed 10 defensive backs. They realized they were going into a war. They realized their defensive backs were going to get hurt, and they said, "Hey, we're going to take on your wide receivers. We're going to play them one-on-one, and we're going to get physical." And that's how you're going to beat the Broncos, and they really showed that, and they really took a lot of heart for that. But I mean, it's tough to put them over the Broncos. I have them over the Broncos, but I see where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, I still have the Broncos at number one. I'll have to disagree, but it looks like we've come to the end of our time for the show. We'd like to thank everybody for listening. Coleman probably has a shout out.
Just want to say that next week we are hoping to be able to have our listeners call in. We are trying to contact the radio guy so he can teach us how to do that. I think that'll be an exciting aspect to our show, so look forward to that.
And I just want to give a shout out. Go Red Sox tonight.
Yes, big game, World Series. We're ready for you, Cardinals, and I think we're going to take it.
All right. Well, this has been the third episode of The Lounge. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, 3:30 to 4:30. Signing off.